Welcome to the Empowering Choices podcast. My name is Joshua.
I am Lucas.
And I'm Eric.
Lucas and Eric are licensed professional counselors, and today we are talking about nonverbal communication. And this comes from a course we just wrapped up and launched called 18 Ways to Talk to Your Kids. And so if you're interested in seeing that full course, we have hours of content. Make sure to go to the App Store, search Empowering Choices Parenting, download that app, or go to our website, empoweringchoices.community. And for a very small monthly subscription, you have access to this course and so much more. But I'm really excited to dive into this. So nonverbal communication. Does that mean we're just not going to say anything the rest of this podcast?
We're going to do the entire podcast, yeah, with interpretive dance.
Right.
It'll just be very quiet.
Yeah.
Be terrible for a podcast because there's usually not video.
True. It'd be okay for someone on video, but the actual podcast format, does not lend
it. Okay for someone on video.
That's true.
Anyway,
we could do it as mimes.
Yes,
that might work.
Terrible.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but and I mean, that might be good if we were trained.
If we were trained mimes,
yes, but we're not.
I don't know. Can we anyway?
Okay. We're off to a great start.
This is the content that you tune in for.
Verbal communication.
I think it's an O. It's non. You got a U in there.
Non.
You got the lazy American vowel.
Yes, that's because of my ancestry. I'm from the South, and we don't say everything.
Is that where that comes from?
Probably so. We don't say everything.
Are there nonverbals in the South, Josh, that don't translate to the Pacific Northwest?
True, there are.
Like what's one of those? Like something that you see a Southern person do that you don't see up here and wherever it is that we're geographically located.
Well, I feel like in the South you can just look at someone and they're saying, "What come up yonder over here."
And you can get all of that by looking at them?
Or get yonder off my property. I don't know.
No, that's the shotgun barrel that you're staring down. That's the nonverbal there.
That is true.
Which would be a nonverbal form of communication.
True.
Yeah,
true.
There's no words there.
In the North, it's a nod like, hey, come sit over here. Or, hey, come on, let's go talk. Where in the South, it sounds like it's a look.
True.
Okay.
And I was always told by teachers, at least, that there could be the whole class lined up and we're in trouble. And then I didn't say a word, but they're like, your face is telling me everything I need to know.
Oh my gosh.
Do you
know what your face looked like when they said that?
I don't know. I think I had trouble not grinning when people were yelling. Oh. And that probably was a form of communicating like, I actually think this is funny.
You're the guilty one.
And they didn't like it.
Yeah.
So,
to focus this a little bit on where we're intending to actually focus for this podcast, grinning when I'm in trouble, right?
Yes.
That definitely sounds like, as you said, you did that as a kid, right?
Yeah.
And I can envision a kid like trying to suppress that when you're trying to be like, don't, the story that I'm thinking of is my friend who told me that their boys peed into the tubular bed frame of their sister's bed frame.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
not that really has a lot of, I suppose that's nonverbal communication, but it's really just, rebellion.
It's like animal level communication.
Yeah. Right. I'm marking my territory.
Or getting back at my sister.
Sure. Yeah. Actually,
there's a lot of different things in there.
Mm-hmm. That is one of our points is all behavior is communication.
Right.
And so, that was communicating something. I didn't have enough context to know what it was in that case.
And that's, because like I know a family I used to work with and they had quite a few siblings and one of them was, being targeted at the time. Mm. And in order to set that child up, the older ones did do something like that, but in that child's closet, and then went and told dad, look what that child did in their closet. And of course, dad was upset, and they completely set her up in this action to get in trouble. And, honestly, it was dad's connection with his relationship with his kids, and especially with this one in particular, who kept saying, I really didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And him being able to read her body language and the relationship, he had told me that, when she does do something, she comes off a completely different way. Mm-hmm. And so the more that she kept saying and insisting she didn't do it, he then investigated and found out that the other kids had done it. Mm. And then it put things in the perspective place.
So that would be this dad spending enough time with his kid to have built a relationship with his kid to be able to read. See, I'm kind of like stacking these things, right?
Exactly.
Even this, because we talk about being able to talk to your kids as a fundamental, foundational course. The time and the relationship almost even have to come before that. And then he was able to read this nonverbal communication from his kid and go, these words and these actions don't square.
Right. Yeah. He could be able to see that. And we do this with coworkers, friends, bosses. I mean, we use these things to tip us off as to what's going on, in this particular situation, what's going on under the surface. I recently heard about a situation where a little girl was, really very, very upset, and she, wanted a book and was not able to get this book because it was deemed by her parents to not be appropriate.
Okay. So can't get it because parents said no.
Because the parents said no. And, she wound up getting the book. And
by hook or by crook, as they say.
Yep. She figured out a way to be able to get that.
Book, crook. Anyway, going down Dr. Seuss land.
And to make a long story short, she was basically able to, come back down and not be upset, and was kind of talking about, things in life. And then the parent came back into, the picture, and she immediately began to escalate again, focusing on the book.
Now, in this scenario, she had come down by talking to a different adult, is that right?
To a different adult.
Okay.
And then immediately she went back up when the parent came back in. So, I mean, her nonverbal is, I want the book, and I'm going to get the book. I want the object. I'm going to get the object no matter what it takes. And so she's pressuring, aiming at, I'm going to make you fold and let me have the book.
Well, and what kind of an interesting contrast in, there was this kind of non-involved adult, not family, not parent, and the kid was able to kind of come down. But when parent shows up, the one who has the power in this interaction, she tries to reuse or use again this different influential tactic, because this works maybe over here, or my parent is the one who can actually make this decision.
Right. And she knows where the power is.
Right.
We call this family dynamics. She knows that when that parent came back in, that's the place she needs to focus on to get what she wants. Kids are emotional thinkers primary.
And they can't see much farther than the end of their nose.
Depends on your age.
Sure. Is that a Pinocchio kind of thing? The older you get, your nose gets, anyway.
It's that logical piece is growing as they're growing, but they're going to come at it from the emotional standpoint. I don't fault a kid for doing that, because that's where you need the adult to go, yeah, that's just off the table. That can't happen, and you're addressing some of these different ways, because if a kid is generally going to continue to escalate, then you have to have different things to help that child to realize, no, I need to change this behavior.
And that would be you cueing in to their nonverbal behaviors, the escalation.
Right.
Which in most circumstances is probably not the most difficult nonverbal behavior to observe, but it is, germane to what we're talking about.
I had one grade schooler, and his mom said that the biggest struggle that she was having with him is that at home, he has just decided he doesn't want to talk. So he motions.
Just unilaterally decided.
Yep, he just, in a lot of situations, he makes motions, he makes gestures, he refuses to use words to be able to get his needs met.
Is he going to professional mime school?
He'd have been good. He'd have been a good mime, and he still may be.
Was there a reason why he was doing that we're aware of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're coming back to power and control.
Okay.
And so he's wanting to do things his way. And so, of course,
just the fundamental,
yep,
I have decided and I will do this.
And I have
that
the
reason
power.
alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so mom told me that, and then he started doing it in session.
Oh, that's funny.
It really, that's what I thought. I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. And so he's doing that, and mom's like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Just wait, just watch." And at that time, my room was connected to a playroom in a different building that we were in, and he continued to make gestures that I'm going in the playroom. I want to go in the playroom.
You were successfully reading his nonverbal communication,
Yes.
but also trying to teach him something else.
Well, yes, I'm not addressing anything that he is wanting because he's not verbalizing what it is he's wanting. So he would pat on the door, he would point to the door, he would move in that direction, and I would identify every object that was in that area.
Give me an example. I'm not quite following what you mean there.
He patted on the door. So I said, "Oh yeah, that is a door there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a door."
You're being just the most concrete, surface level obvious.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm addressing his nonverbals,
Right.
because I don't know really what is behind those. I am speculating, and as he is doing this, gosh, it must have been because I'd be talking with his mom, and he'd come and stand between us, and he would be pointing at himself and pointing over there, and I'm playing along, and 45 minutes later,
That's an incredibly long amount of time.
yes, wow, he actually said, "Can I go into the playroom?"
It's like, oh, you can talk.
And I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked that." Yes. And by the way, if you'd have asked that 35 minutes ago, you'd have already had 35 minutes of playing.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, go right ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And now fast forward for a number of years that I worked with him, he would just come right up and say, "Okay, this is what I'd like to do. What can I do? What can we do?" And his mom said, "Oh man, this has been so different at home because she's doing the same thing, and so she's taking and reading his nonverbals and she's addressing them very concretely
In an almost absurd,
Yep.
high level,
Yep.
concrete fashion. Yeah. Yes,
Right.
that is a door.
You're basically you're playing dumb,
Right. Exactly.
and you're doing that because and especially when you get into autism and Asperger's, there's a struggle that those neurologies have in being able to speak and understand that their words actually get their needs met. And so there's that it's a tendency pull to want to be more nonverbal at times. And so helping them be able to develop how they can be able to communicate to the world has to have some intentionality to it.
Was this the child about which you had commented, "Oh, he's going to get hungry sometime"?
No, that was my son.
That was your son. Because I was pretty sure it was the same thing, right?
Yes.
Of not words, not words, not words. And it's like,
Right.
okay, yes, that is the refrigerator. Yes, that is I'm hungry. Oh, good.
Right. Yeah. And, and I'm sure that I did have that conversation with, this individual's mom too, because I'm sure, because he was doing a lot of nonverbals and, and that was a part of what we talked about. There are parts of the body that can work on your side. And one of those is hunger, and so eventually he is going to have to put something into words. And
If he wants to have mom help him with this problem. Yeah.
most kids, when they get hungry, can only hold out so long before they're like, "I am hungry. I want food."
Right.
You know?
When you have the problem of a kid voluntarily by choice choosing not to speak.
Yeah.
If you have a kid with diagnosed mutism, maybe don't go that direction.
Yeah, when we were recording this course, one of the things that I had kind of brought up that we talked about was I've watched a lot of stuff on looking at people's nonverbal communication to try to tell if they're being truthful or whatever. And you commonly see people asking a question, and I'm saying no, but I'm shaking my head yes because I'm lying. And I'm actually saying yes and talking about how that can sometimes, you can read through that. And you were mentioning that with certain diagnosis and different things, sometimes those don't get all mixed up. Yep. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, you go back into autism, Asperger's, sometimes fetal alcohol, fetal drug effect. They have what's called opposite reactions. And I've seen this all the way up through adults. I've had adults that said, "I don't understand why in something that most people see as sad, like the death of pets, that when they tell me that their pet died, I almost laugh.
And they don't even want to.
And they don't want, and
for
that's
this
what,
diagnosis.
yeah. He said, I don't want to do that. I love pets. I have pets. I'd be very sad at my pets. I feel bad that theirs died, but I don't understand why I have these reactions. And it's a part of that neurology, to where the person has to be able to understand their own wiring, to be able to understand how to be able to start to change that on a parent level. When your child is, at an age they can really understand that, you begin to kind of talk to them about that and talk about, what is the reaction of most people? How did you see other people, expressing, themselves as to how you reacted, and begin to kind of build those logical pieces as to, you may not want to do this. Just understand something about yourself. That tendency is going to be there, but it's not going to get good reactions.
Right. So thinking about parents who are listening, and maybe they're seeing in their kids some of these things that we're talking about, either the kid's not using their words and they're just kind of, forever trying to, show what they want, or maybe what you were just describing, you're telling someone sad news and they're giving an inappropriate response. Sort of at what point does that become something that I should go, I should probably get my kid in to see a professional counselor and at least have this evaluated?
It would come down to, how do you feel you're doing with that situation? Do you feel like you're over your head? Do you feel like you need some help, some education, some assistance? Does it look like things that your child is doing is not what your other children did, or not what you hear your friends' children are doing? That's where you may want to kind of pull in some assistance and see what it is that, might be there that you didn't realize.
One of the things that I'm thinking about that relates to, more children more commonly is the way that they use their tone of voice, right? Mm-hmm. You'll hear commonly that, don't you use that tone with me, young man, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember having a client that I had that conversation with. They would tell me, they were a teenager, and I communicated with the mom and I communicated with the teenager, and there was, like, the mom was like, she uses this tone. And so I would talk to the teenager and be like, do you even know what your mom means when she says that? Because she can't change her nonverbals if she doesn't even know what she's putting off. So, like, if you have a kid who's, maybe they do have an autism diagnosis and they're having an opposite reaction that they don't want, in order to learn how to change that, they have to learn that. And maybe for a neurotypical kid, they're using this tone. They have to know what the tone is so that they can be aware of what it is, what it sounds like, and then how to change it. So yeah, because your kids' nonverbals do communicate things, and that was, at least in this case, one of the ways that I addressed that as the counselor of, like, do you even know what that tone is that your mom's talking about? Mm-hmm. And eventually, at some point, she's like, yeah, okay, I know what she means. And it seemed like that was helpful for her in, like, being able to catch that tone, hearing it for herself, and then changing it.
Mm-hmm. So. That's great.
Yeah, and I definitely got told that many times about don't use that tone, don't use that tone with me. So man. I could write a book of how many times I was told that. So yeah, so basically we have this nonverbal communication and then so much more in this course, 18 Ways to Talk to Your Kids. So if you kind of enjoyed this conversation today and found something good out of it, I would strongly encourage you, download our app, search Empowering Choices Parenting in the App Store, or go to empoweringchoices.community online and join our club, essentially, and you get access to this course, more courses, and so much more there in our app. So we will see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Andy.
Yes, thank you.